Brady, his podcast, he was on his podcast that I think he does on Mondays and was speaking in a way where he indicated there actually is some kind of mental health issue. He spoke like affirmatively that there is some sort of mental health issue going on with Antonio, and launched into that compassion thing again, that we're supposed to have compassion for Antonio Brown. It was a deeply uncomfortable, and I texted you earlier, Brady is bringing up Simone Biles and Calvin Ridley and associating them with Antonio Brown. And I was literally yelling at my radio as I'm listening to this audio, because it's very, very uncomfortable. First of all, if indeed Antonio has been seeking help for some sort of mental health issue, that's Antonio's thing to tell, not Tom's.
Sure.
So that's uncomfortable. But also, since we don't know for sure that that's happening, Simone Biles came out, and yes, she was having some mental health issues. She was having crushing mental health issues, in large part because the very organization that she was competing for and had been competing for let her be molested by a predator.
Right.
And then also she was having some issues with losing her place in space and could have gotten physically injured. You know, Calvin Ridley gets dragged into this. He hasn't played in weeks because he's addressing some sort of mental health issue. Antonio has a history of violence. He has a history of temper tantrums. It made me uncomfortable and angry because, as you said on Sunday night, it's like you're trying to give him this get out of jail free card, because if we say he has mental health issues, then it doesn't matter how he behaves. And I'm sorry, that's not how it goes. You know, I looked up statistics, and people who do have serious mental health issues, diagnosed mental health issues, they're not usually violent. And this is a man who has rape allegation, other sexual assault issues, and was violent toward women, the mothers of his children, on multiple occasions. So it's just hard. And then when you bring in the football aspect of it, part of me does wonder if he really does have a mental health issue, and this is where it gets murky. Is it the optics of Bruce Arians saying, well, screw this kid, and the league saying, well, hold on a second. If this is truly tied to his mental health, and we've been trying to come off as a kinder, gentler NFL that actually cares about player health and safety, we can't just kick this guy to the curb because of, you know, bipolar or schizophrenia or whatever the case may be. So it's all a mess.
And that could, you know, as you said, that could be this whole idea of the designation. And if there is some sort of mental illness, you know, that's now diagnosed or whatever, or has been diagnosed and the team knew about it, and they feel like this is an extension of it, then yeah, I could see how the team's like, well, how do we designate this? We better talk to the league, because we can't. I absolutely could buy into that being part of it, and it would explain the void of information. When you talk to people, the union has to be careful about certain aspects of what they get into with the players, right? Teams have to be careful, and the league has to be careful, right? And so that would line up with why there's this sort of odd void of information here. You know, I think one thing too, when Tom brought up Simone Biles and Calvin Ridley, I think what bothered me about that comparison was they were two individuals who removed themselves from. They said, "Look, I'm not right here. Something's wrong. I need to step away and take care of this." Okay, and Antonio has never actively, that we have seen, removed himself from a situation and said, I have a mental health, component of what's going on right now. I need to handle this. I need to step away and address it. Another component of it too is this idea of compassion. Well, he's been extended a lot of compassion. Okay. You can't tell me people have not been compassionate toward him. When he left Pittsburgh and he went to the Raiders and things went awry with the Raiders, New England stepped up immediately. Okay. Yep. So and gave him a lot of money, and Tom let him live in his house. Okay. And, then when things go awry with New England, and really, really badly, and he seemed to turn on everybody but Tom, you still had the Saints worked him out, right? the Seahawks took a long look at him. You still had teams that were like, hey, we're not just shutting you out. The league it wasn't Colin Kaepernick, and the next day couldn't get anybody to return a call or have any interest whatsoever. And then, Tom brings them back into the fold, and brings them back in the fold with a team that Arians had previously said, no, I'm not adding that guy to the locker room.
Yeah. Arians knew.
Tom got those lines redrawn. Right. Arians knew because he was in Pittsburgh with him. So there has been an immense amount of, at some point.
The other thing that's hard is, you bring up Biles and Ridley and other athletes who have talked about that. Antonio's behavior since he ran off the field on Sunday hasn't exactly been the behavior of somebody who is potentially in a mental health crisis. He's sitting courtside at a Nets game the next day. So, I mean, I'm not a mental health professional. I don't understand how all of those conditions work. But if somebody were in a mental health crisis and you would hope, and now I sound like some of these people on Twitter, like, should he have been rolling in a chauffeured Suburban or whatever it was? And it's hard. At the end of the day, we have 3 or 4 years of evidence where it's close to impossible to give him the benefit of the doubt.